And we are live here at the Paris Blockchain Week, having a great time, interviewing a lot of wonderful people and meeting a lot of great people as well. We had a really fun time there. David, I know you saw some of that at the Louvre Museum last night. The line for the Louvre Museum this morning, it was like, it went on forever. It was like, the line was like seriously a quarter of a mile long. And they just gave us a run of the place last night. It was really cool. And I was
Nice.
glad I got to share some of that stuff on a live stream because, you know, who knows if you're ever going to get over here. But those jewels and stuff, man, that was serious.
Right? Yeah,
Yeah.
beautiful, incredible stuff.
Beautiful, incredible stuff. I mean, it looks like the stuff I get my wife, but, it was beautiful and incredible. No, it was a lot of fun. The VIP dinner was a lot of fun. Paris Blockchain Week is a lot of fun. They've done they've done a really good job of making a great event, and of course making us feel happy as well and welcome here. And we've been able to get a lot of stuff done. So that's really cool. Some of the interesting interviews that I have, of course, are we have like this solar sun money token. They have different fields of solar panels and stuff like that. Really just budding ecosystem. It does feel different. This is something that we've all kind of talked about. It does feel different than the last bull run. I don't know if Bitcoin has to get above 100,000 or something like that in order for it to feel the same way as it did before, because it feels different for sure. But a lot of money, a lot of projects, a lot of great projects. Europe's so nice too. Just it really is just something else. So we're live on Smart Money Culture TV. Smart Money Culture TV network. There, our man with the plan, Fly Mackey. And I know, Fly, I owe you a phone call. A little hard jumping around here all over the place. But I do owe our main man, Fly Mackey, a phone call there. And what we're doing there with the Smart Money Culture network, TV network, is really something special. And we are growing that a lot. We're growing it a lot. And, that's pretty cool that's happening. So that's cool. Oil, stocks, crypto is still low on the 24-hour, but it's edging up. The movement now appears to be up. We've had our dip, but gold looking really, really strong. I know Matt will talk more about this in a bit. Gold looking very good. Silver as well looking very good, getting closer and closer to $30 range there. Pretty impressive. Oil is edging up. Had a bit of a down day yesterday. I mean, not much, a little bit, a third of a percent, half of a percent. Hong Kong Stock Exchange, a big push, which is interesting because reports are coming out of China saying that the economy is in trouble. Same stuff that's like coming out of the U.S. Economy's in trouble. Economy is overheating, and then of course you have the stock market pump. The Hong Kong Stock Exchange here pumps up 300 points there, almost 2% on the day. So that's interesting. It also kind of signals to me that probably the Dow, if you look at the Dow futures, up slightly as well, kind of tepid, but we're probably in for an up day. Wow, Dow is trading very, very high here, isn't it? Let's see. Oh yeah, we got all-time highs. That's pretty interesting. Yes. Well, look at that. So, there you go. It tells you what's going on with our inflation and everything. That's going to go through the roof. Pretty intensive situation that we have as well. I know in both war zones. I know in Eastern Europe, pretty intense situation we have over there. Hundreds of thousands, if not more, people are dead. Just absolutely horrible. And of course in Israel as well, it's just really heating up. No end in sight. Nobody has a plan to end these wars. And that's like the part that is most troubling about the whole thing. nobody has a plan to end the wars. Like, how are we going to end the wars? You know what I mean? That's
Right.
what I want to know. Yeah, dude. Like, how are we going to end the wars? That's what I want to know. So here's oil right here. Like I said, up about 1/3%, 85.50. Of course, that might be good for a lot of people in Texas, oil producing state. But overall, of course, that we feel that everywhere. We feel it at the pumps. We we feel it. We feel it everywhere. So some of the other stuff that is going on. The King of England, King Charles, has just been presented with the new banknote. They have new paper money featuring his face. Let me just let's take a look at that. That's probably worth looking at. Here we go. Let me add this back into the screen here. Here he is, the big guy.
We have come to present you with your banknotes.
Oh, right.
So this, of course, is quite a big moment because we've never changed the sovereign on the banknotes because the Queen was the first sovereign to be on the banknotes.
They're very elegant, these ones, I must say.
They're very elegant.
It's been a tradition to gift the reigning monarch with the lowest numbered banknotes for a long time. But this is the first time that we've had 4 new banknotes coming out at once. So it's a great pleasure to be able to show the King what he's going to look like on the banknotes of the future. The banknotes will be released to the general public on the 5th of June this year, and they're going to co-circulate with the Queen Elizabeth notes. So there's no rush to change your old Queen notes. They will stay as legal tender.
We have come to present you with your banknotes.
Oh, right.
So pretty interesting, you know, the whole fiat money, the paper money system that is pushed by the central banking cartel. Of course, this is one of the reasons the central bank was one of the reasons why we had our revolution in the U.S. because we didn't want to pay those taxes. We didn't want to pay all of that. And, you know, they said it was a 2% tax, 2% T tax, and this and that and the other. There was some more stuff involved there, but that's something else. But I mean, who doesn't want their face on the bills? I mean, that's pretty cool. I'm sure the King is pretty happy about that. And I have to say, you know, it is interesting. You go around all the different countries. Of course, you can some the Prince of Monaco and a couple of other ones. For the most part, you know, the UK or England is one of the only ones with their families left. So you gotta say that's something else. That's something else. After World War I and World War II, basically after those countries, different countries across Europe helped the U.S. win the war, we made them give up their palaces and countries. So that's we're not exactly, for the most part, the best people to do business with. So that's pretty interesting. We have the Brazilian. What's going on with Elon in Brazil is really just something else. I mean, we have now. Brazil is saying that they are going to put people in jail that work for X, that work for Twitter, and so that is pretty considerable. You know, that's how they do it. That's how they put the pressure on you. They put the pressure on your family. They put the pressure on the people that work for you, right? Because maybe you're not going to bend. They're not worried about Elon bending, but you know, people have families and people have to take care. And now you have a situation where they're saying they're going to put them in jail. So that's something else. Elon takes on Brazil. There were some big spaces last night talking about it. Pretty interesting. There is one Brazilian Senator Eduardo Garau, and he thanks Elon Musk for supporting free speech. I'm a senator from Brazil in the state of Ceará. I speak from plenty on the Senate of this country now to thank you in support of free speech. In Brazil, our position against authoritarianism decisions are a reinforcement to the return of democracy in Brazil and an answer to the prayers of the Brazilian people who are always known for the joy and the vibrant spirit and are now suffocated with fear. Pretty interesting what's going on over there, especially because I feel like this is a microcosm of really what's going on around the world. In the U.S., in the recent months and weeks, we've had the FBI coming out to people's homes for social media posts. absolutely crazy. You know, we saw this happening in the UK and stuff like that, but now happening in the US. People showing up at the door for social media posts, knocking on the door, wanting to talk about it. Just absolutely crazy. Absolutely crazy. I'm just scanning some of the other stuff here. What is going on? Yeah, I mean that's pretty big news. The U.S. slams Ukraine supposedly for targeting Russian oil refineries. I mean, who knows if that's anything true or not? You know, one of the big stories coming out, of course, is Boeing, right? Boeing and these airplanes and why they keep falling apart. Like, why do the airplanes keep falling apart? Like, it's got to be sabotaged, right? I mean, why else all of a sudden would all the airplanes, Boeing especially, airplanes start falling apart? Like, there's got to be some type of connection there as well. Russian SpaceX launches a rocket into space. SpaceX working with Russia there to get that stuff done. Really amazing guy, really, Elon. Two-tiered justice system that we have in the U.S. Of course, it is just it's crazy what's going on. Trump, of course, looks completely unstoppable. I don't think anybody can stop Trump except these magic voting machines and these absentee ballots. I mean, I think that can definitely put a that can do it. That can stop it. And this is what I was talking about. China's economy in trouble. China's finance ministry sharply criticized the Fitch ratings. They basically downgraded their A plus rating, or they maintained it, but they gave a warning. So that's pretty interesting. And of course, Iran is saying that these Arab nations must stop helping Israel. So really a lot going on. We could go on and on. I think that's going to continue to propel the markets forward. This type of these high risk, these risk assets, as well as gold, silver, crypto, these types of assets. Because here's the thing, guys, they have to keep printing money. There's no way that they can stop printing money. And so since they can't stop printing money, then they have to, and then that of course makes makes everything keep going up. So let's bring on Matt Dixon. I'm sure Matt has some insights for us. Sir Matt, the great, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. Thanks for having me again. What you said yesterday was really interesting, Bruce. You talked about treading water ahead of the CPI news or the inflation news today out of America. I think that's absolutely the case. We did talk about we're in the midst of a consolidation in the markets, but obviously the big story here is all about inflation, and that's kind of the theme of a lot of your shows. I'm just going to present my screen here, share my screen, so you can see a little bit of what's going on. So I'll start with a light-hearted look at, and again, I hope you can see my screen there.
Here we go. Great news. Okay, here we go. Great news. I just got a raise. And then, oh, look at that. That's a great one. Inflation with a gun in his hand.
Coming to rob you.
Yeah, a couple of kind of... Oh, yeah. Are you still seeing my screen, by the way?
We have the cartoon, yes.
Okay, good. If you've still got that, that's fantastic. So, yeah, clearly, obviously, someone just got a raise, and this is just telling you the story about how inflation is kind of the secret, thief around that takes away. You don't even see inflation. So I'll look at that in a moment. Obviously, we're dragging inflation around with us, and the fact that inflation is higher than the Fed are planning and targeting, it really is like dragging a heavy weight behind you, because whatever wages you're getting, it's being eaten away by inflation. And so, the Fed is saying, relax, don't worry, inflation's not an issue, they've got it under control. In fact, they're going to be lowering rates in the future, and they were talking about lowering rates 3 times. Jerome Powell, chairman of the Fed chair of the Federal Reserve, was basically saying that inflation is very much under control and they're going to be lowering interest rates. Well, the fact is inflation isn't under control. So the Fed's saying, relax, inflation is extinct and it's declining. Well, at the moment it's not, so it's a major worry. So how does it actually affect us? And I just put together a couple of slides. Here's one, is just a calculator you get online. But basically, if you bought something for $100 10 years ago in 2014, then you purchased the same item today, taking inflation into account, it's looking at average CPI inflation. That same item would now cost you $131. So just to put that into context, if you were earning a salary of say $30,000 back in 2014, you would need to be earning $40,000 roundabout or more to just have the same spending power, nothing additional. Your standard of living won't have improved at all. So your wages will have needed to increase from 30 to 40,000 over that 10-year period. So you can calculate yourselves whether your wages have gone up by that amount. So in that actual fact, in general, and this takes, there's some factors which skewed these numbers. For example, COVID, and it took a lot of low-paid workers out of the circulation at the time, so it skewed the numbers. But taking a proper look at it, adjusted real wages are actually fallen. So it means that in actual fact, because of inflation, when you say adjusted, you're talking about real wages here, they've actually fallen in real terms. So we have less money in our pockets. So it's a bit of a problem. It's not the case all the time. The thing is, these numbers, they fluctuate quite a bit. So the actual employment, wages and salaries fluctuate, and they're not correlated with PCE inflation. And so, for example, during the COVID times, we actually had just after COVID, sorry, we had high inflation figures here with the green chart, with the green line, and we had high wages we had there basically, and low PCE. And then basically you can see that as PCE has fallen, wages have fallen, but basically they're not always correlated. So sometimes things feel really bad, like costs and expenses are really high and your wages not going up. Sometimes the wages catch up. But in general, in the past 60 years, when you look at these figures, the real wages, the real spending power that people have in their pockets has hardly increased at all. So we see this amazing economy in America growing and growing and growing, but it's not put real money into people's pockets because of the effects of inflation. And that's been a real problem. And inflation can be driven by many factors. I won't go through all of this, but basically you've got what they call cost push inflation, which is really inflation caused by the price of goods. So when we saw the price of oil and the price of grain and labor costs and so on rise with the Russia-Ukraine war, and we saw the prices of those things. So that's kind of price-driven inflation, where the price of things go up. And then you've got another one, which is demand inflation, where you've got high demand for services. So what I would say about the Russia-Ukraine war was that was kind of externally driven. So it wasn't internal. So internal inflation is often driven by increasing demand for goods. And that's not been the case. Ideally, I think demand-driven inflation in some ways is better because it means the economy is really healthy. There's a lot of demand for goods. But in fact, when it's cost-driven inflation and just the cost of goods goes up, like oil and so on, then it's not so good. And from the consumer point of view, it's not good. And then we can look at all these at your leisure at the various. But I suppose the most important one here is to be concerned about is the very bottom one, stagflation, is a situation where you have high inflation during an economic downturn. Now, we are seeing the first signs of a potential economic downturn in the US. Some signs are still bullish, and the economy is still roaring ahead, but there are some signs now, particularly the debt burden that consumers are carrying, even the government is carrying, of course. This massive debt burden is meaning that people have less money to spend, and so we're seeing a real warning of an economic downturn. And yes, inflation is still high, and these are the figures that are going to be released tonight out of the US. We've got core inflation here. They're expecting a slight fall in core inflation, 3.8 to 3.7. Bear in mind that the target rate is 2%. So that is worrying that we're still not a long way off double the target rate of inflation, and yet somehow the Fed.
Did you lose him?
Yeah, he seems to have froze. There he goes.
You froze for a second there.
Okay.
Maybe he
So
got
I'm
a
not
call.
sure where, but we've got the inflation figures coming out tonight, which are expected. The headline is expected to decline very slightly, and sorry, the core is expected to decline very, very slightly, but the headline inflation is expected to increase. And so this is a big problem that the Fed have, because as I say, we have signs of the economy beginning to slow, but inflation is still near twice the rate, the target rate. And so the cost of goods for everybody is going up and up and up, but the cost of wages is just about on the turn, and the cost of wages is, they're not keeping up really with inflation, and that situation may well get worse. So this high inflation is a big problem because the Fed cannot afford to lower rates when they've got inflation this high, and yet they want to lower rates because growth isn't so amazing. And I'll get back to the charts reasonably quickly, so I'll flip through these as fast as I can, but we keep coming back to this. But as I say, every single time that you see the unemployment cycle rate, unemployment at an all-time low or near all-time low or a cycle low, then that's when you see a recession coming. So as I say, recession is almost definitely coming this year, but as Bruce and David have been saying, they will be printing money again and trying to keep this economy buoyant because it's election year. They want to keep things going and keep the can down the road for as long as possible. But at some point, the economy will begin to turn around and we'll see a low in unemployment. Then unemployment will begin to tick up higher again. That will be the sign. Once it starts to tick higher, it's not right now, it hasn't started to tick up just yet. So when it starts to tick up, that's when recession is likely to bite. And they're probably not going to be able to lower interest rates because inflation is still high. So they will come back to money printing. Now that is probably a good environment for Bitcoin in particular and for gold. That's why, I won't leave on that chart, but that's why we're seeing the price of gold at all-time high and Bitcoin is toying with all-time highs. So here's the Fed minutes due out tonight, and this will be interesting just to see what they have to say, how they made their last decision. The fact is there's now virtually a zero chance that they're going to lower rates or change rates in this May meeting that's just coming up. And even June, there's a very, very low chance they're going to lower rates. So the Fed did say at one time they're going to lower rates 3 times this year. It doesn't look possible because inflation is sky high. So we'll just head back to the actual charts and see what's happening. So here's Bitcoin at the moment, and it's pretty well in line with what we said yesterday. We said we're in this consolidation period. I'll actually jump to Litecoin because that's probably the clearest one. I actually circled here this consolidation that we're in. So we did expect a little bit lower with markets, with Bitcoin, Litecoin, and the rest of it, because it's a consolidation. And as Bruce mentioned yesterday, we're probably treading water ahead of inflation figures. Now, I suspect we might see a slight improvement in inflation. In other words, a slight reduction in inflation, possibly even below expectations. If that were the case, that's going to be positive risk assets. So that would signal the end of this consolidation period. So this one we're seeing in Litecoin, where this consolidation kind of sideways choppy movement, it's moving down, treading water ahead of the inflation news today. So if that inflation news were to come out with inflation being slightly lower than expected, then that could give the markets a real boost and break us out of this sideways consolidation. And we see that the same again in Bitcoin. This is a consolidation. If this is some kind of triangle consolidation, triangles are basically a pre-terminal wave. So I mean, there'd be another wave to the upside from this triangle, from the break from the triangle, if it is indeed a triangle, never absolutely certain, but it's looking like a consolidation for certain. There's no impulsive movement to the downside. So here we see impulsive movement to the upside with big, strong movements without overlapping to the upside. Here, every wave we see is retraced quite strongly back up again. And so it's sideways choppy movement indicative of a correction. The overall trend is in the upward direction. And so following this consolidation, we would expect a break to the upside. So I think most likely, it's entirely possible that we'll see some good inflation figures out tonight, and that might give us the boost that we need for crypto and risk assets. So we'll go through some other cryptos shortly, but we'll just touch on S&P 500 here. So S&P 500 here, you can see we've been in this consolidation channel for a long time, a parallel channel that's contained the price for a long time now, right back until, and we can go back until last year, basically. When I say last year, before December. And we can see that S&P has been very much in this consolidation pattern within the parallel lines. We touched the parallel line once again to the downside. We've been pushing up. Now, if we get good inflation figures today, that would be positive for the S&P, and that would mean we could then push up towards the top of the parallel trend line. I think this may be the final push up. I've been anticipating a final push for some time now, but I still think we've got room for upside to go, and it would actually align perfectly with a particular Fibonacci extension we've got here. It's 100% of a previous wave we had at this level here for the S&P 500. That would be 5,379, there or thereabouts. So quite a bit of upside still to come. So if we get good inflation figures, then that would give a good excuse for the markets to push higher. But we do have a lot of concerns in the backdrop, in the background. You know, as you say, China is slowing at the moment. China are a big consumer in the world. They also, they basically produce a lot as well, but they're a big part of the world economy these days, a big and growing part of the world economy. So it does matter what's happening in China. It matters to America because America still exports an awful lot of goods to China. And I know trade is both ways, but it will have a knock-on effect to America if China is really slowing down. And I know they are printing money in China, trying to stimulate the economy. But if a lot of the economies are slowing down, then that will probably have a knock-on eventually to America, who have been very resilient up to date, but I don't think it can last forever. Although we are beginning to see some early bright spots in Europe, particularly in the UK. We've been through a really bad time in the UK, but things appear to be picking up a little bit in the UK. So maybe this good start to the year will continue. We saw a brand new all-time high for Bitcoin. We're a little bit off that at the moment, but as I say, it has been a bit of a downward correction, and I think we'll very soon be breaking to new all-time highs. So this dotted line above here, the dashed line above, is the previous all-time high for Bitcoin. The consolidation has remained below that, but at some point, I think it's almost inevitable that we're going to break that all-time high. We'll break above it probably quite strongly and then retest it before we then head off into the stratosphere for Bitcoin. And that's being supported by still good volume into the ETFs, the regulated Bitcoin ETFs. So the institutional demand is there, and I think the sky's the limit for Bitcoin. Although the triangle, as I said, is what's called a pre-terminal wave. So the next wave after it would be what's called a terminal wave. So that would end this particular cycle and would then get a correction, a pullback correction, usually to the, if it's going to continue higher, it would pull back to the range of the previous wave 4. And this, if this is a wave 4 here, which this triangle could be a wave 4, probably is a wave 4, it cannot happen in a wave 2 position. So wave 4 is near the end of this cycle. But what it means is when the cycle is complete, we get a pullback to this sort of region here, and then we push off again strongly to the upside. So I think the future and outlook for Bitcoin is actually really positive, and it would be very positive if Bruce is right and we get more money printing towards the end of this year, which looks to be the case because they're going to try to support the economy and continue to support the economy. Solana has seen quite a bit of a pullback, but again, we expected it. We had this charted sometime before that we're expecting, effectively that's an A wave, B wave up and C wave down. We expected there to be a consolidation pullback in the C wave, which is still underway. And maybe tonight's inflation figures we may get a bit further push down. Maybe tonight's inflation will either see the end of this move down or the beginning of a push up. But I think this is just, again, a corrective move, and we should push back to the upside. Here's gold, which, as Bruce and David have been saying, has been looking really, really bullish. New all-time highs again. We're just messing around that previous all-time high, just slightly off the all-time high again. But the reason gold and Bitcoin are looking really positive is because they're both great hedges against inflation, because they both have limited supply, whereas the fiat system has an infinite supply of paper money. But these things are solid assets. Even Bitcoin is actually a solid asset because there's a limited supply. And that's what makes it a solid asset and what makes them call it digital gold, because it has limited supply just like gold. And as we said yesterday and previous days, the stock to flow ratio is actually going to be better than that of gold after the upcoming halving, which is now, as I say, only days away. So Bitcoin, the supply, and we talked about inflation before, supply and demand being important. Well, if you think about Bitcoin in those terms, we have a limited and diminishing new supply of Bitcoin. So the supply is actually in favor of upward prices, but the demand is also, now we have institutional adoption through the ETF, the demand side is also higher, which again, so we've got both sides of the equation actually pushing in the same direction. So the outlook for Bitcoin is very, very positive based on those criteria. And the only thing that could upset it, I think, short term, would be if we have some geopolitical issues, perhaps in the Middle East, China, Taiwan, Russia, Ukraine, wherever. They're the things that could upset the apple cart short term. But I think long term, the fundamentals for Bitcoin are very, very solid. Even XRP, which has been, again, we see it in very much of a consolidation pattern. You can see all this choppiness sideways. I think we're reasonably close to a potential break higher for XRP, and maybe if we get good inflation news, that could be one reason. But also, I know there's still ongoing court issues with the SEC. If we get some resolution there, XRP could explode to the upside. So don't get caught short. This does look like a correction, so the downside should be limited, and there should be plenty of upside to be had there. Oil is, again, it's been pumping quite well, but it's just off the recent highs of 87.50 or something, just off those highs, but not a lot off the highs. And I think it will probably soon continue to the upside based on demand. Let's hope there's no supply issues with problems in the Middle East. So as long as there's no supply issues, this will be driven by demand. And demand appears still to be quite solid. The US economy is still reasonably resilient and looking reasonably promising. And they do look as though they're going to continue to support the economy and maintain plenty of liquidity in the system to ensure we don't see a crash this year. That's what we're going to aim for. As I say, things may be outside their control if we see geopolitical upset. But other than that, I think they're absolutely determined to keep this market buoyant. Dollar index.
Yeah, I mean, like we've said, really, the whole time, it's they have to keep the economy up. They're going to keep printing. So
they'll keep the printing presses whirring if they need to. At the moment, they don't need to, but if they do need to, I'm sure they'll be switching those presses back on, printing money, keeping the economy afloat. US dollar is actually, again, pretty much sidelined. If I go onto a daily chart here and just try and scale out a bit, there's no clear direction, to be honest, for US dollar. We're still round about this long-term trend line, upper edge of the trend line. We were above it, we dipped back below it. So there's still absolutely no real clarity on where we're going with the US dollar. And there's no clear signal even from a candle perspective. We see a couple of kind of hammer candlesticks here, which is telling us potentially higher. But then we also see some hangman candlestick there. So there's mixed signals, to be honest, on the US dollar. There's no real clarity. And I think they're going to be data dependent. So when we see no real clarity in the US dollar, that means we're waiting for data. And that data might be the CPI news or the inflation news, or it could be the Fed chair, the minutes from the last meeting, something that will drive it. But at the moment, as I say, Solana has been very congested, but it's actually performing quite well today compared with most of the assets. And I'm really surprised how well it is performing, just down 1.6% today. And you can see some of the bigger assets, some of the major assets have fallen by quite a bit more than that. Dupe, the decentralized Solana exchange, again, only down 2%. Aptos, which is a layer 1, down 4%. Basically across the board, generally down, but nothing major. And I think this is indicative of what Bruce was saying about the market just treading water. Nobody wants to stick their neck out, put the head on the neck on the block. Nobody wants to take a position ahead of this all-important inflation news, because that will affect basically the US dollar. It will affect the liquidity in the system, or the outlook for liquidity in the system, and so it will have a knock-on effect to risk assets. Even the meme coins, there's no particular action there. You can see Bonk down 3%, which is nothing major for a meme coin. Doge down 1%, again, nothing major at all. So in fact, they're performing pretty much in line with the rest of the crypto market. So I think it is just a case of treading water ahead of the news. Of course, the news could go either way. We could get a shock to the upside on inflation, but I think the way the charts are set up with this consolidation at the moment, I think the outlook is going to be probably better than expected inflation. In other words, slightly lower inflation than expected, and that should be good for risk markets. So that's pretty much it from a wrap on the market. Again, we can focus on so many different tokens, but overall, it's just treading water.
Fantastic. You're muted, Bruce.
I'm on mute. Okay. So yeah, great report, Matt. That is pretty much right on point with what we've been expecting, and it will be all eyes really on these CPI numbers coming out. But I think they'll be pretty good. We have with us here as well. We have Ashveen. Ashveen is with the Mauritius. Well, he's a partner and managing director at
PwC Legal.
Yes, and he's a long supporter of the Cryptoverse Summit. So we're gonna bring him on for a bit. Matt, you're welcome to stay or go. But another amazing report with MarketWatch, and learning how and helping people understand what to do, how to trade. You can always go to learnhowtotrade.club. Discount code there is TradeSmart10, and learn from the professional.
Fantastic. Been a pleasure. I'm actually going to head away again to another meeting, but it's been a real pleasure to be with you. Look forward to catch up again tomorrow. Hope you enjoy me over there in Paris, and catch up soon. Thanks, David. Thanks for all your input, and look forward to tomorrow.
Great.
Cheers.
Thank you.
Hello, Ashveen. How are you, sir?
Hi, Bruce. I'm doing good. What about yourself?
Doing very well. Paris blockchain. Well, Paris is beautiful, as I'm sure you know. Really, just an unbelievable spot. And this Paris Blockchain Week they put together, did a great job organizing it. A lot of really interesting people, great projects. A lot of all the big names are here. So we're having a blast. I know you at PwC Legal, you guys do a lot of important work. You're there in Mauritius, right, as I understand, right? And I know what Benito is doing, putting this together. He's doing such a great job. So tell us a little bit about your work there at PwC Legal, and how you see the ecosystem in Mauritius progressing.
Right. Well, thank you so much, Bruce, for the opportunity to talk a little bit of what we do, a little bit about Mauritius as well. And it's great to hear that you're having un temps impeccable à Paris. I hope your French is getting better.
Well, it's so funny because, and I'll let you go on. As an American, I grew up especially in a time where they actually told us you don't need to learn any other language. So I don't think it was a very long time, but it was a few years, maybe a decade or 5 years, and you don't need to learn any languages. It's you're right, I don't need to learn any language. Now when I'm older, I would love to to be able to speak, and even being over here, the French language is so pretty, and you want to be able to participate in a society like that. As well, I took my family over to Italy. It started out as a family vacation, then I sent them home, and I'm here now working. But in Italy as well, guys like you probably speak 3 or 4 languages. I mean, it's something I'm jealous of. I'll be honest.
Somehow, well, there's never too late to learn, I suppose. As you know, older generations is learning about crypto. It's just not something
Right.
reserved for the young people.
Right?
So
It's
never too
true.
late. It's never too
We got-
late.
It's never too late. And those old guys are bringing in the big money. These guys
Exactly.
are bringing in big money.
Yeah, but I think it's for the first time ever in the history of humanity, you are really seeing the fusion of a span of generations. We see the people with the money, with experience, with an understanding of the financial world as it is now and it will stay, together with the young entrepreneur who understands the world of crypto and the new order better. And it is really now a unique time, I think, we're living, where you can't have this one generation which is right, or say the other one which is right. You need the both of them to bring this together.
Yep.
And again, a little bit about ourselves. PwC Legal. We are a law firm here in Mauritius. We are an independent law firm and operating under the banner of PwC. We are a member of the PwC Global Legal Business Solution Network, which groups all the law firms within the PwC, the PricewaterhouseCoopers network. And we're also a member of the PwC Global Network, so to say. Now, I personally, I've been in the space for some time now, Bruce, for the very simple reason that before being a lawyer, which is now about 20 years practicing at the bar, I was an engineer.
Okay.
And I was an engineer. I was doing lots of programming. So when that thing called Bitcoin came about, I could understand very easily and understand what was going on. And probably one of the very few lawyers at that time that could understand what was going on from the technical aspect. And in fact, the first time I heard the word blockchain was not in 2009. It was like back in 1999. It's just that Satoshi Nakamoto, whoever he is, apparently it's not Craig, according to the latest judgment. It's not him.
Apparently.
Yeah, apparently it's not him, poor guy. And so whoever he is, bless him, he made just a small twitch on double spending. But the concept of blockchain is something that dates back to 20 years or even more. I was saying again, very quickly, I found myself spearheading the space in Mauritius because I would understand the technical aspect and the legal aspect, which is now is a very crucial thing. For instance, 2 weeks ago, we just finalized a report called an interoperability report, which is a report that you need in Mauritius when you are a VASP. And you're applying to get a virtual asset license, it is possible that the regulator asks you for something which is called an interoperability report, which is very common with exchanges and etc. when they are structured with many platforms operating together. You may have a KYC platform plug-in with an onboarding platform, which is plugging via an API with an exchange platform or a wallet. So you need to have an interoperability report that is going to say, okay, how each and everyone is talking to each other and what are the risks there if one goes bust. So we are very proud to say at PwC Legal, we are probably the first firm to have first law firm to have produced a interoperability report for the benefit of the regulator. It's probably the first in the world, in fact.
Wow.
So But yeah, and this is this is a little bit of what we do, and it's really time now to bring in the legal competence, the regulatory know-how, with the technical savvy that is required to make that whole space work. So yeah.
Yeah, it's a mouthful, really. There's a lot going on. I know Mauritius is the ecosystem there has been it's been pretty friendly there, um, and
Mhm.
this Cryptoverse summit that Benito has put together, I think brings a lot of people together for it. It's great that people like yourself and WC support the events, because without people like you, they wouldn't happen, right? I mean, you need that support in order to put it there. Now, for you guys, what is like your target? What is your goal when you go to when you're participating in something like this? Is it B2B? Is it the different companies that come in, or is it smaller than that? What is your takeaway? What is your main goal for the Cryptoverse Summit?
All right. Okay. Well, one of the topic that we will be discussing on the firstly, I would like to say hi to Benito. I know he's listening.
Yes,
And
listening.
that Benito, with that, you would not have been able to make that. No, I'm being no. Benito has been really, driving that's a Cryptoverse Summit here in Mauritius. I just gave a little push, a small push. He's the mind behind that. And I have to say that over the 3 years now, the Cryptoverse Summit in Mauritius is becoming like the crypto event. And the great thing is that it's really becoming international now. So I've been there the first 2 years, but it's the first time that we're bringing the brand PwC Legal and PwC to be the main sponsor, and I think that already gives an idea of how serious and important we believe that the Cryptoverse Summit is, and Benito and his team as well, as a matter of fact. Now, coming to
Sure.
your question, one of the topics that we'll be discussing, we have the benefit in the network of bringing in competence from other jurisdictions. So one of the topic we're discussing is the how banks, traditional banks, conventional banks, what they have to do to get into the crypto space. So on
Yep.
this specific designated panel, I will have a partner from Dubai, Hafed Ajmi, who's going to be with me, and also another one from Switzerland, PwC Switzerland, Sebastian Ahrens. So we will be sharing our common knowledge with targeting mainly the financial institutions and the banks, how to move into the space, because it is a very complex space for traditional bank to go into with their
Yes.
mindsets and etc. So this is the one thing that we will be discussing. And now I've got a news for Benito, who's listening, because I haven't had a chance to tell him that we might, recently, PwC has been working with Stellar, the Stellar Development Foundation.
Stellar.
And yes, Stellar Development Foundation. And
Big sponsor here as well.
yes. So I have to say that there's a joint business relationship now between PwC and Stellar.
Amazing.
And under the PwC, under the commission of the Stellar Development Foundation, have created a global financial inclusion framework to assess the factors contributing to financial inclusivity, and it targets like companies and institutions and emerging markets, particularly those with upcoming blockchains. Now, that joint collaboration between Stellar Development Foundation and PwC has already seen the light of two main ESG blockchain frameworks. And we are currently talking to the main partners who are involved in this Stellar and PwC project to be present at the Cryptoverse Summit.
Awesome.
To
Awesome.
share, to share how the blockchain. We are talking about environment is a big thing now, Bruce.
Yes.
It's determining our existence. And initially, when we spoke about the blockchain, the Bitcoin blockchain, we addressed the issue, the environmental impact issue that it had. And today now, with the advance of technology, blockchain is being used to promote ESG's project.
Yep.
So now that's a huge game changer here, where we are seeing technology coming hand in hand with green projects.
Yeah.
So hopefully, keep fingers crossed, Benito. We will be having a discussion on that as well during the Cryptoverse Summit.
Well, amazing.
You're welcome, Benito. You're welcome, Benito.
Yeah, of course. Well, it's going to be a lot of fun. I know David and I are both. I think we're planning to moderate a panel, so we're both looking forward to that. We're looking forward to getting into Mauritius as well. Go to the beach, spend some time there, and really evangelize what you guys are doing. So, thank you so much for coming on. It was really it's really a pleasure. Love learning about what you guys are doing, and really looking forward to meeting you in person. Is there a social at or a website or anything you'd like to point people to?
For the Cryptoverse Summit, I'm afraid I don't have this.
For you, if you want, I don't know. You had
you could Google PwC Legal Mauritius, and then you will see everything that we're putting up there.
Perfect. Well, check it out. PwC Legal .mu is the site. Thanks again for coming on. We've done it again, guys. Another great show, and we will be back at it tomorrow. I'm signing off here from Paris Blockchain Week.
David, and see you soon.
You got it. Cheers.
Thank you, guys.
Sign out. Bye now.
Your voice is powerful. When combined with social engagement, it's a force for change. Decentralized media paired with free speech is the catalyst for an empowered world and a unified, invaluable ecosystem. Join Global Boost, become a champion of free speech, and help to reshape the future of media.
It's an amazing community, and I talk about it around the world, and I'll say it again now, guys. We are the most powerful community in the world. Thank you, Bruce.
What we have here is a monetary revolution, and it's a peaceful revolution.
And it's not just crypto, but
everything.
Where if we don't free ourselves with a decentralized, permissionless blockchain, they're going to imprison us with a centralized, permissioned one. We have to do something. And if we don't do something, they're doing things. But we're saying, we're going to hodl. We got to give some of those things we're hodling to the politicians so they like us.
And it's been going on for over a decade now.
I want to build a future we're all inspired to live in. We understand the impact that we have on our planet and make sure that that's part of how we cost things on the immutable ledger of the blockchain. Blockchain is a way we make the world we want to live in accountable to the future generations that are right now going to be dependent on us, making sure this planet's around for them to enjoy. And it's not so much the things that we can do with it that we need to be talking about right now. What we need to be talking about is the hard questions about what should we be doing with it. How do we solve human trafficking and human slavery with the blockchain? How is it that we are able to give ourselves as humans détente against the next generation of AI? One of the things that we're committed to is built into our fee structure is a philanthropy plank. We want to be giving back to giving organizations that have the resources to be self-sustaining and building additional resources to give back, because that's the kind of economy that's going to make a difference in the future. It's not one that's always extracting value. It's one that's always adding value. It's real easy to get up here and say these words and say, let's do this. It's the people that can actually execute and that really believe in people and in planet and doing this for purpose. Those are the people we want to partner with. It's how we get to make a difference. But that's one of the ways where I got to know Bruce and how he's committed to making a difference. And there's a number of charities he gives to. Talk to Bruce and talk about what he's doing, and let's keep making a difference. That's what we're all about. Thanks.